Hey, Stevie on here doing the junkyard crawl with thanks to our friends at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts. Now, this is a 1967 Chevy 2 Nova, commonly known. 67 was the final year for this two-year body style, 66 and 7. But 67 was the final year for a Nova station wagon of any kind. Chevy never made them. 68 all the way into the 70s. No Chevy Nova wagons. Crazy but true. So here it is, the last shot at a long roof Chevy 2. Now this one here is a Nova. We know this, of course. It has the logo on it. And original blue paint, I dare say. Probably owned at some point by a performance enthusiast. We see Monroe shocks, stickers, and a blurred out or broken Chevrolet logo in the side window when that was all the rage back in the 70s or 80s. And of course, being a wagon, it has 4 doors and bench seat, front and rear. Rust has definitely taken its toll on this one, but this is a special one, very uncommon car. Why? Well, we start with the front fender, and we see right here the remains or the stain of a V8 logo. Now keep in mind, while you could get a 327 in a Nova hardtop or non-wagon, you could not get the 327 in a wagon, 283 only. But again, a V8 powered wagon like this is pretty cool, but even cooler than that is what we see inside. A clutch pedal, okay, and a floor hump. This is a factory 4-speed Chevy Nova station wagon. Now here's the thing, that was a $184 option, and in 1967 a total of 6,058 Chevy 2s and Novas came with a factory 4-speed. The vast majority of those were coupes, right? So if you think that maybe 1 in 20 of those 6,058 4-speeds wound up in a wagon, that would make this one of like 600, and I dare say it's probably way less than that. A 283 4-speed wagon. Here it is. Now, of course, the Chevy Nova, drum brakes on these things. Disc brakes would not appear in this styling cycle. And here's the engine bay, which is kind of problematic if you're into high performance. These have these coil springs inside these massive towers. So putting a 396 or a 409, which was done, into one of these things involves major surgery. In fact, Bill Thomas Chevrolet in Anaheim, California sold something called the Instant Funny Car Kit. And basically 14 fasteners would be unbolted, the entire nose rolled away, and a tube frame bolts up to the firewall with leaf springs and a straight axle and instant gasser, instant funny car. A lot of people did that. Of course, that did away with these big spring towers, and you could put any engine you wanted to. Just ask people like Dickie Harrell, who built match race Novas back in the day. But again, this is a 283 4-speed wagon. Now the big question is, which 283? Well, here's the air cleaner. It's a single snorkel. You can see here the remnants of the 283 Turbo Fire sticker on it, but we don't know if it's a 2-barrel or a 4-barrel until we look at the base. Okay, that's the small opening right there for the Rochester 2CG carburetor. A 4-barrel would have a larger opening. So this was born as a 195 horsepower 283, but with the 4-speed. Again, very well optioned. Now the thing of it is, there was a 3-speed manual possible as well, but they were always column shifted. When on a Nova like this, when you see a shifter on the floor, somebody ordered the 4-speed. In this case, it would have been the M20, wide ratio with a 252 first gear, good for accelerating away from traffic lights, although a bigger drop between first, second, third, and fourth than the M21 close ratio with its 220 first gear, which didn't give quite as much multiplication off the line, but had less of an RPM drop as you shifted from first, second, third, fourth than would the wide ratio. But for around town use, the M20 wide ratio is a better choice in a wagon like this. Now we see the cowl tag here, and let's decipher. We see 67, 1 is Chevrolet, 1635 is a 4-door wagon, 2-seat with V8. 7 is 1967 model year again, and W is the Willow Run plant in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which was built in World War II by Ford to build B-24 bombers, but which then later would build pretty much every Corvair ever done and a lot of the Novas, including this one right here. Now, Motor Trend magazine, which by the way is rarely wrong, they never make mistakes with one exception, canceling Roadkill's Junkyard Gold. Just saying. But this is Motor Trend right here, July 1966. I was 2 years old in July of 1966, but here's all the new stuff. This is Chevy's answer to Mustang. Look at this thing right here. They called it the Panther. Yeah, that's the Camaro, just around the corner, but here it is as a sort of a secret. Motor Trend breaking the story. But inside is a cool road test of a 327 Chevy 2 Nova. And here it is right here. You can see the fenders have the V that we see on this 283 car, but that little thing on top, that's the 327 logo that was added, and that of course tells you it's a super sport. Now the 327 in these things made 275 horsepower. There was the L78, the 350 horse 327, but maybe 5 or 6 were built in 67, far more in 66. But here we have assembly plants we can find. After our third quarter-mile pass, we noticed water shooting from between the hood and fender line. Apparently this was a manufacturer car, and it says here, the upper radiator hose had a hole sawed clean through it. Water was pouring onto the alternator cooling fins, which in turn were spinning the water out toward the hood and fender. Investigating further, we found that upon acceleration, when the torque of the engine caused it to move down on the right and up on the left, the alternator's fins would come into contact with the hose and bite it with highly deleterious effect. Kind of weird. We'll get back to that in a second, but this article is interesting in many ways. Here we have some shots. This is again a manufacturer. See the MFG. This is a Chevrolet a fleet car, or a press car, there you go, and MFG means it came from Detroit. It was meant to be shown to magazines. But here's the 10-bolt rear axle with the 275 horse 327. The 12-bolt would have been had in the L79s. There's the smog pump, California spec. But something kind of weird. This is the 275 horse single exhaust, not duals on this 4-barrel 327. But look at this. The pipe comes out here. That's a resonator. That little thing right there, that's a resonator. Try and find that exhaust system today. Good news is companies like Gardner do make 100-point exhaust systems for strict restorations. A couple of Flowmasters and dual pipes don't cut it on a 10/10 restoration. So if you're building a 327 4-barrel 67 Nova restoration, you need that single exhaust with a resonator on it. Just saying. But again, this is a great example of how most 4-speeds were utilized in Chevy 2s, not in wagons like this thing here. Coming further down the side of this puppy, it's been hit pretty hard right here. That might have been a death blow. I don't know. That might have also happened while it was here in the yard. A lot of times, skid loaders and buckets and stuff are used to sort of bang the cars around. But this one does have the usual New England rust. Beyond the surface rust we see up here, the quarter panels are kind of raunchy, and I can only imagine what the floors look like on this one. But again, the beauty of the wagon is the cargo compartment, the long roof, the tailgate which comes down, and the manual window, which would go up and down. Of course, there was an optional electric window on these things, but drag racers like wagons because of all that weight over the rear tires. Dump the clutch and all that weight shifts rearward, and it plants the tires, or the slicks hopefully, a little harder than it would in a hardtop, which doesn't have as much weight over the tail. So again, long roofs like this were generally 6-cylinder cars, boring utilitarian pieces. But you have to wonder who owned this and why they ordered the M24 speed with the 283 2-barrel in this wagon. I'm sure they probably talked with their salesman, can I get the 327 even on special order? But no, Chevrolet did not put 327s in these wagons in 67. They should have, but again, the 283 was as good as it got with 185 or 195 horsepower. Not a bad figure. But with that said, this is a rare wagon, like maybe 1 in 500, maybe less, don't know. But that's the story of this sleeper 4-speed V8 wagon here in the junkyard. Be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, ring the bell so you have an update on tomorrow's video, and we're here every single day in the junkyard. We'll see you tomorrow.